Hello, third grade writers, and welcome to session 15, which is all about revision. So, last week we started a new story and you became your own job captain. That means you decided what you were going to write, made sure it was a small moment, and added in all the elements that we've learned so far through our writing process. I know that it's been kind of hard for some of you to write like this because it's a new way of writing. But hey, you can do it, just like this meme says. I know you can. I've seen some amazing stories come out, and I can't wait to read the new stories that you came up with last week. Today, we're going to make them even better through revision. So, let's review what we've already learned about writing great stories. How many of you can tell me just one thing that you've learned? So be thinking in your head, what is one thing that you have learned over our narrative writing unit? Yes, that is one important thing that we have learned. But we've learned so much more. So we learned how to write, to find story ideas, to make a mental movie, detail the actions and include dialogue or talking. We're remembering to keep our self-assessment in our heads. We're rehearsing for writing by storytelling the story again and again. We learned how to try different leads with action or dialogue. We learned how to write a flash draft, writing Fast and Furious. And today, we're going to try to revise. And we've revised in the past using our first story as well. Today, we're going to talk about how to have balance in your writing. So, scholars, I know that we've talked a lot about having dialogue, so having people talking, and also having descriptive language. Sometimes we get so carried away with either descriptive language or dialogue that we don't balance it out well. Today we're going to work on that balancing act, making sure that you have enough dialogue, have enough descriptive action, things like that. When you have balance in writing, you don't have too much of one thing. For example, some writing has too much dialogue. Other writing has too much description and not enough dialogue. Here is an example of balance. So this is from Karen Hesse's book, Come On, Rain. It's a beautiful passage. Notice how she uses descriptive language and dialogue as a balance. I stare out over rooftops, past chimneys, into the way off distance, and that's when I see it coming, clouds rolling in. Gray clouds, bunched and bulging under a purple sky. A creeper of hope circles round my bones. Come on, rain, I whisper. So the only part that was dialogue was that last little bit. The rest of it was just very beautiful descriptive language. All right, let's review our anchor chart and add to it a little bit. So remember, our first step into to write a true story is to find an idea that are focused and important to you, and then you write a lot of entries in your notebook. You make a mental movie once you've chosen your story. You make a mental movie of what happened, telling it in small detail, bit by bit. You detail the actions. You include dialogue. You remember your self-assessment and your goals. You rehearse for your writing by storytelling the story repeatedly. You try different leads for your story, action and dialogue. You write a flash draft, writing Fast and Furious, eyes on the mental movie. So today we're talking about revision, but we also talked about revision last week. Let's add a little bit more to our anchor chart. We want to make sure we are revising. What does that mean? It means to make your story better. How do we revise, Mrs. Halverson? One way is to try what other authors have done. You guys had that lesson with Miss Tanner when she read you that nice book and we kind of enjoyed the language that the author used. So that's one way to revise. Another way is to develop the heart of the story. So to think about what is the most important part of the story, underline it and rewrite it as if it were a beautiful piece of poetry. Next, we want to make sure that we bring out the internal story. Oops. So you need to tell me how you felt, what you saw, what you heard, etc. You could use phrases like I noticed, I saw, I wondered. Another way is to check to make sure your details and dialogue are balanced. Scholars, I've had students write entire stories just in dialogue. And that's not a very good story. She said this, then I said this, then they said that, then I yelled this. We need to make sure that we're telling our readers what's going on around us as well. As you write today, think about revising your writing to make it have balance. Too much of one kind of thing in a story is not good, but balance keeps the readers interested and keeps your story flowing smoothly. What is one thing you learned today? Think about it. Can you name one area of our checklist where you can improve in your writing? Let's look at our checklist. Whoops, that's not really working. Okay. I told the story bit by bit. I wrote a beginning, which I helped readers know who the characters were, and what the setting was. I told my story in order by using phrases like a little later and after that. I chose the action or feeling that would make a good ending and worked to write it well. I used paragraphs and skipped lines to separate what happened first from what happened next and finally in my story. I worked to show what happened in and to my characters. I not only told my story, but also wrote it ways that got readers to picture what was happening and brought my story to life. So I want you guys to think about these first, okay? Spelling and punctuation can come at the end. We're just working on writing a really good story. All right, scholars. So choose what you're going to work on today. I'm going to leave this up. This is what you want to do to your story today. Try what other authors have done. Develop the heart of your story. Bring out the internal of the story. Tell us how you felt, what you saw, what you heard. And then check to make sure that your details and dialogue are balanced. All right, scholars, happy